Hello and welcome to the D3 podcast. This is your host, Matt, joined as always by Sam, Kevin, and John. Are we feeling all-star, baby?
No.
Is this all-star Smash Mouth or something like that? Or are we all-star NBA? I kind of want to be all-star Smash Mouth right now. I just want to be so fucked out of my mind.
Keep coming and they won't stop coming.
I think we should.
Oh my god, that's great. That's great. Just really quickly, speaking of Smash Mouth, I was watching this like college 90s movie. I don't even remember what the fucking movie was, but they were playing some Smash Mouth song in the background. And I'm like, that is the most 90s thing I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't even All-Star. It was just some Smash Mouth song.
All-Stars like Central 90s.
I have a great, very quick story about Smash Mouth. So I went to U of I one year. We have a sweet corn festival in Urbana every year because they're a corn town. And they came and performed at the sweet corn festival one year. And everyone in the crowd was like screaming. They were either screaming All-Star or they were screaming Shrek. They were like, Shrek, Shrek, Shrek. And then the front man had a heart attack and they had to take him out of the fucking performance. He's okay. But he had fully was like, he had a heart attack and they had to like take him away.
Dude, oh my God. Okay. Now that we're on this, it was me, Tina, Kyle and Jill, and then Nolan and Ashley. We saw them at like this super like low key place in not in Orland Park. It was another place near Chicago, south of Chicago, and Smash Mouth was playing. And eventually there was this Facebook page that was started for Smash Mouth, and it was literally making the biggest, like, it's called like a death wall or something like that, and it's like the most metal thing in the entire world. But it was a giant mosh pit where there was somebody with a Shrek mask holding a stick with like Shrek taped onto the stick. And they were all just dancing around, pushing each other over in this mosh pit. It was the most 90s thing in the world, and they were all grown-ass adults.
What the fuck are we talking about?
We're talking about All-Star, baby. We're talking about the All-Star starters. Why don't we get right into it? So obviously, thank you. So obviously we have LeBron and KD as the team captains. I think we all sort of expected LeBron to be the team captain. Thank God Kevin Durant is the captain. No longer will we have Chris Middleton as the first draft pick. Giannis, yes, that is a little bit of shade to you, but it's fine. It's whatever. You won MVP 2 years in a row. So right now we have the West, and at LeBron, Jokic, Kawhi, Steph, Luka. I think we all have some various things about who should be starting in the West, but we'll get into that in a minute. The East, we have KD, we have Kyrie, Embiid, Giannis, and Bradley Beal. This seems all pretty simple, except Kyrie starting. I would never have had him starting over like James Harden, to be honest. But here we are. I am happy for Bradley Beal, though. He did get his starting position as he should. So why don't we get right into it? Any disagreements for the starting lineup? John, I'll start with you.
I mean, for the West, for me, it was pretty much my ideal situation. My boy Luka Doncic got in there. Probably shouldn't have. Probably should have been Dame. I can respect that. What Dame has done this year is absolutely insane, and and he's totally deserving of the spot. With that said, like Luka is having probably the greatest year for one of the greatest years for like someone's third season that the league has ever seen. He's still incredible. The team just isn't very good right now, but I anyone who says Dame should be starting over Luka, I think that's fine. I don't. I kind of agree. In the East, I did not pick Kyrie to be a starter. I picked Jaylen Brown, who's been very consistent all year. I think he missed some games too, but Kyrie straight up took like a 7-game vacation. And like he is incredible and is totally an all-star, but like I'm very surprised that he was a starter. I thought that was strange. That's all I'll say. He's deserving of an all-star spot because he's incredible. But weird that he was starting over even James Harden or Jaylen Brown. That was odd to me.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you, and I think those are like the two key players that you mentioned, John. Was Luka was like having Dame over Luka possibly, and then having like, I don't know, like 3 other players over Kyrie. So Sam, why don't we get into you? What was your biggest disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even mad about the West. Like, it's like, I mean, these guys are like all crazy good. Like the stat lines are like almost like identical at this point. I mean, just out of respect, just because Portland is winning and everyone called out Portland for not like to fall out as soon as CJ was gone. Dame showed up and he's showing his numbers. So I think he should have been a guaranteed lock. And then I would have been okay with the toss up between Steph and Luka. And it probably would have gone to Steph just because Steph is back-to-back MVP as well, and then there's just popularity at that point. But I'm not really mad at this lineup, and I'm pretty sure Dame also just doesn't really care that much. It seems like the Portland fans just go nuts over anything that's like against Portland. They're just like, this is a disgrace. This is unbelievable. It's the worst thing ever. East-wise, yeah, I think Kyrie it's not that shocking since it's like mostly by fans. I think they haven't seen Kyrie in a long time either for All-Star, but probably shouldn't be there, like you said, John. I think there's like a valid reason you're out. I'm okay with that. But when you're out, celebrating your sister's birthday without masks and being irresponsible, I don't really have any much respect for you at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, to be honest, do we think Bradley Beal would be in the discussion if we didn't talk about his current situation in Washington? Because the same thing happened last year and Trae Young got it. So I just feel like there's like a weird like double standard that if we talked about Trae Young's situation, he probably would have got the starting spot for some reason. But I don't know. I just find it like it's well deserved, but like is our standard based off points? Because I feel like that's what the All-Star is. It's just who scores the most points. Or is it like, do you also get W's? Is W's the tiebreaker at that point? I don't know. I just kind of found it funny.
33 points per game. I mean, it's just like if he was not an All-Star starter, it would have been after last year. That is definitely a part of it. But like, come on, like 33 points per game, you're in. I'm sorry. It's just like it's also like they voted a lot earlier this year than they normally do. So with how weird the season is, it's almost hard to take the winning into account. But 33 points per game.
Yeah, that's got to be the standard for All-Star. If you're not, like I said before, it's a race to see who can get to 150 points first. Like that's the All-Star game for you. Kevin, do you have any? Are you surprised about any of this? Any disagreements?
No, not that much. I mean, I think everyone's kind of said it all. I think the Dame argument is tough, and I think it depends on your criteria, like you guys were saying just now. Like, do you determine All-Star kind of based on wins, based on points, based on stat lines, total? Like, there's a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of good arguments to be made for why Dame should have that spot instead of Luka, but I think there's the same for Luka instead of Dame. So that one I'm fine with. Like, again, it's Luka's third year. He's unreal. He's stupid good. So I'm not mad at him being an All-Star starter. And then the East, I think Beal deserves it 100%. Again, 33 points a game or whatever. That's dumb. And last year he was, so that's part of it. Like, I definitely voted for Beal in part because I think he's been snubbed too much. So I think a lot of people did that. And then Kyrie, like, I don't know. Kyrie's playing unbelievably well, but like John said, I don't know if he fully deserves that starting spot, but he definitely deserves to be in the game for sure.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
You know what? Actually, we probably should have done collectively as fans, media, and coaches or players. We should have actually made sure that Bradley Beal didn't get selected, because that would have probably pushed him over the edge and made him ask for a trade out of Washington finally. I think that would have been like the straw that broke the camel's back. So, I'll go ahead and take the L for that. I'm sorry to the NBA. Sorry to Bradley Beal. We didn't give you the motivation you needed, but congrats on the All-Star.
That's on us. The only thing that I'll say about this is Jaylen Brown and James Harden over Kyrie. So why don't we get into the reserve picks? John, you did a fancy little thing that you've done before with the reserve picks. Why don't you tell us how we all came to who we have right now?
Yeah, we all submitted our picks for the reserves, and I just basically saw who we all picked for that, aggregated those, and that's how I came across basically we got our aggregate list for the West and East of who we all sort of collectively were picking for that. And for the most part, we were pretty similar actually in our list. So there's not too many differences here. I think that there are two players specifically who didn't get on the list that was on someone's ballot. So we'll talk about them. But other than that, it was pretty consistent.
Sounds good. Why don't we get right into it? So we'll go over the West first, and then we'll go over the East. And then, of course, we will have our snubs. So for the West right now, we have Dame Lillard, Chris Paul, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, and Paul George. And then we also have, and I'm sorry if I don't know what this is, WC, John. What's WC?
That's just wild card. Okay. And then that's what the last two spots are called. Yeah.
Sounds good. Then we have our wild card with Donovan Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox. Boys, why don't we go over this really quickly? Are we surprised about any of these? Does this look like a solid reserve picks? Is there anybody that you are very frustrated that didn't get in the top? So John, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, I think that this is actually pretty much exactly what I would want for the West. I think the only one that I had a different selection for was in the East. And sorry, did you list off just the West for this one?
Yeah, just the West.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, for the West, I was I'm very cool with this. The only one that I think is interesting is does AD end up in there? I think he probably should, but he's only played 23 games, and that'll be what he plays leading up to it. I wonder if that ends up weighing against him, but either way, that's how we end up with probably Zion, I imagine, getting that injury replacement spot. That's my guess. Who would be the one getting the spot for AD after that? But other than that, I actually really like this list. I love that, I don't know. I think some of you guys might have had Donovan Mitchell as the starting guard instead of Chris Paul. I made an executive choice to put Chris Paul there because the Suns are awesome, and I think that it's actually significantly about Chris Paul. I kind of actually think that he has made that team work but because Devin Booker's still good, but he's not as consistently dynamic as he was last year, and Chris Paul has been especially lately, I think in the last 8 games or something, has been crazy good, and he is also just props to him for being his age and still being this dominant. He makes this team work, and they're the fourth seed in the West right now, I think. I had to have Chris Paul be that guard option there, but Donovan Mitchell is also great. Obviously, the Jazz are awesome. We had to put Gooby and Don on this lineup because they're the best team in the league record-wise right now. But and if the Hawks from 2014 or whatever could get fucking 4 or 5 people into the All-Star game, I think we have to let the Jazz have 2. It's cool. It's good.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. I would definitely, if anything, I would say Zion over AD. And I do very much so agree with your Chris Paul executive decision. I know that some people on this podcast might not feel the same as we do. I know some people on this podcast don't really think in a logical way. But that's fine. That's fine. People are allowed to have their wrong opinions. It's okay. We live in America. It's what we do. Sam, I'm going to go to you before I go to Kevin. Would you replace any of these guys, and who would you replace them with?
I think I wrote Chris Paul as well, but kind of thinking about it, I'm like, I wouldn't be mad if it was just a flop with a different Suns player, and I think Devin Booker would be a probably excellent spot here. He played 3 less games than Chris Paul. Don't get me wrong, I respect Chris Paul, and I think wherever he's gone, he's transformed the teams that he's been on.
Yeah, that's true.
I think just in terms of like, hey, if I'm going to pick an all-star on this team, I probably would have just picked Devin Booker, but it'd be very close at that point. But I mean, otherwise, I kind of like it. I'm glad that we had some sort of consensus on De'Aaron Fox. I think it's well-deserved for what he's doing with that Sacramento Kings team, because it's always had to be a Sacramento Kings fan. And I think this is finally could be a new light, a new awakening for them. But I'll defer to some of the hate. We'll defer to our residential Laker fan here. But I think otherwise, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, and
Dennis Schroeder should have been an all-star, baby. That's Kevin, I'm sure, in like 2 seconds. Fucking.
There's a certain Minnesota Timberwolf that was on the Suns last year that definitely should be starting over Chris Paul. Kevin, how do you feel about this slander? Are you how you feeling right now?
I'm not about to hype up Ricky Rubio to get an all-star place. He doesn't deserve it this year. I'm not saying I never said he was better than Chris Paul, ever. Y'all take that out of context every episode. I never said it. Granted, I definitely was the one to put Donovan Mitchell as a starter and not Chris Paul. I did put Chris Paul on here, okay? I did put him on there as the wild card, so I'm just saying I give him credit. However, my other thing I'm upset with here is Paul George being on this list.
That's what I was waiting for.
No. Listen. Why discuss over, should Zion be a replacement for AD when you can have both of them on the list? Take Paul George out of there, put Zion in his place, win-win. AD and Zion. Easy. Get that Paul George out of this line. What are you talking about?
I told you guys, right? Paul George is not even on the stats leader list because he hasn't played 70% of the games this season, all right? He's 1 game short of that, so he has 0 respect in ESPN standards at this point. We know Paul George. I won't go any further, but Paul George.
Paul George. All right. We're going to move on to the East now. This one is where I think we'll have the most discussion, as we always do when it comes to the East. We've got Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Jason Tatum, Bam Adebayo, Julius Randle, and then as the wild cards, we have Zach Levine and Sabonis. So, John, I'm going to go with you first.
I also really like this one, but the only thing is, when I did my thing, I decided I could only have one of Sabonis and Randle on my pick. So I went with Randle because I just think it's hilarious. I think it's really funny that he's as good as he is. They're essentially like their numbers are essentially identical. Sabonis plays a much smoother game, I think, but he's been a little up and down lately, which is disappointing. You know, we were like really excited about him earlier in the year. He's still worthy of all-star consideration for sure. I don't know if he's worthy of like an all-NBA spot at this point, but he's still like awesome. I had Ben Simmons as my last person in the wild card. I just think he's awesome. Obviously like the limitations are there and they're well trotted on, well discussed, but like his defense is just game changing. Like to have both him and Joel Embiid on a team for your defense is like, you can't really ask for much better because you get like 2 very unique kinds of stoppers. You have like Ben Simmons who can really guard 1 through 5 and like lock down 1 through 5. You're tossing him on the other team's best player, and then you have the best paint protector in the league, other than maybe Rudy Gobert. Like, so I love Ben Simmons. I think he's deserving of an all-star spot. And he's just really like found himself after the trade rumors. I think he like really turned it up this year. So I obviously his numbers look as they always do. I just think that I really like respect what he's doing this year, and I wanted him instead of Sabonis. But I got to give a shout out real quick to Zach Levine. Fuck yeah. I've been wrong about you all these years, Zach. Well, actually, I was right about you. But this year, yeah, you're proving everyone wrong. The offense is incredible. You're an absolute bucket from everywhere on the floor. It's disgusting. It's filthy. You don't know how to play defense still, and that is frustrating. But you deserve an all-star spot. If Bradley Beal deserves an all-star spot, you deserve an all-star spot. Trae Young can get sucked and fucked. I don't fucking care. He also got left off. I think only one of us included him there. I get it, but fucking the Hawks suck and they're sad. So.
The Hawks suck and they are sad. What a way to burn the shit out of them. Look, I will absolutely say this. I'm actually going to go next on this one because I think mine were more controversial. Right now, I actually had Zach Levine over James Harden, and I had Sabonis over Bam. And I think the only reason why I had Sabonis over Bam was just because of how the Heat have been playing recently. I think there's been a little bit of recency bias when it came to that. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I got to have Bam in there over Sabonis. I just have to at that point. Allow me to defend myself for having Zach Levine over James Harden, which seems like one of the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. I get it. But look, all I'm saying is one player has been on a very bad team, and you know what? He stuck through it, and he's been killing it ever since. And the other player is James Harden. He had one, not even bad year, but like one bad semester of like basketball. And then he starts whining and crying and bitching and moaning, gets to the Nets, and now he's all-star conversation. But look, I'm just saying, Zach Levine has been with the Bulls for years now, and he's kind of just a fucking hose getting money. Like, that's what he's doing. He's just like, he's getting his bag worth, honestly. That's what he's doing.
I respect the homerism. It's just that, like, Zach Levine never in a million years could do what James Harden did this year.
Yeah.
Just go from being the most, ball dominant scorer probably ever in league history to being one of the best distributors and, offensive hubs in the league right now. And deciding he doesn't need to take 100 shots per game because he's got two guys that can do that for him. But I respect it. I respect the homerism. Zach, we love you this year. Stay a Bull as long as you want. This team fucking is ridiculous anyway.
Yeah, like I said before, I literally I put Zach Levine in there just so I could shit on James Harden a little bit, but James Harden clearly deserves to be on that list. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's so fucking good. It's insane. But I will absolutely chew him out and put Zach Levine over him just for the meme of it all. Sam, let's go to you.
So you mentioned that we use Bam Adebayo's recency bias. What the fuck? We picked Bradley Beal as starter. What are we talking about? They're the trashiest team in the NBA. What are we talking about? Trae Young should be an easy pick as a wild card. Why is Sabonis on this list?
That is not what I meant. That is absolutely not what I meant. I meant because the Heat have been, the Heat have not been that great, but they've definitely been better than the fucking Washington Wizards. But I don't know. I guess I'm talking out my ass, but I definitely wanted Sabonis. Anyway, go ahead.
I don't have any issue with Sabonis. I think it's, for me, I picked Trae Young. I just think at the end of the day, it just comes to points, and I think that's just scary as point guard in terms of scoring in the southeast part of America. I'll let you have his part. Kyrie Irving, he can have his part too. But Trae Young's the only reason that the Analogs have any existence. Literally just his saying Trae, that's just why Atlanta Hawks. Otherwise, there's nothing good about this team, sadly. Severely injury plagued. I'm going to be a Trae Young lifer for forever, all right? That's how it's going to be. It's going to be like that forever. Get this man to a winning team. Let's send him. He's clutch. He's with clutch. Get him to the Lakers. Kevin, you want Trae? I got you, all right? We'll get it happening. But Jaylen Brown should have been a starter. James Harden can suck a dick. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah!
But Jaylen Brown should have been easiest. That's just disrespectful, honestly. I know he's not a popular player in terms of the NBA itself, but this guy's playing lights out. I have the utmost respect. Last season, I was I don't think it was worth the money, but I think the only guy that got the max, they didn't get the full max. He got right under it. He's the only guy actually playing for what he's worth so far, in my opinion. And I think he's balling out. I like that. James Harden is just because he's an MVP. I mean, it's hard to like not put an MVP caliber player who's been consistently. I actually like this James Harden better just because like his facilitation is like unreal. And I think he actually, and to his point, he actually has people who can score on their own at the same time. And when he gets it to the corners, reliable shooters. I'm okay with that. Jason Tatum came back from COVID, balling out still. Bam, the only reason Miami's coming back with now the help of Jimmy Butler. I have Julius Randle, the third seed Knicks. It's going to happen. I'm telling you. You're going to call me loser, but I'm going to be rocking. Everyone's going to be rocking a Knicks jersey, all right, when they get past the first round. Hear me out. The first round, all right? It's going to be the greatest day of our lives. Zach Levine, Zach Levine, I'm not even mad. It's once again, it's another Trae Young factor where he's just a taller Trae Young and he has I think he's one of the best slashers in the NBA, honestly. Like, he's probably like top 5. Maybe even top 3 at this point. Like the pump fake, get into the paint, I love it. That's because like that's some old school shit that no one does anymore. And like it's a really, really hard comp, but it's like some MJ level, and maybe he's just channeling the inner like Chicago vibes of being a Bull. But maybe it's the new uniform, the Chicago uniforms. Maybe that's what's happening for him. But I'm not about this list. I think this is like the first time where like these lists actually make sense. Like I think it's just like okay, you guys are obviously like deserve these spots, so I'm not really mad. Any of these picks, so.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. This definitely is one of those years where it's just like, yeah, definitely can see this. Kevin, we'll go to you next.
I think this was actually my exact list. Like everyone down on this list is I had. So I definitely don't have any complaints. I think the one thing I was thinking about, which might be controversial, I was actually genuinely considering for a while, okay, do I swap Zach Levine and Jaylen Brown? I was really... because I also wanted Zach Levine on that list, and I think James Harden deserves a spot 100,000%. Jaylen Brown deserves a spot, but I wanted to put Zach Levine first, but I didn't. I couldn't. Jaylen Brown.
It's okay. I'll take that bullet for you. I'll take it for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I'm glad someone stood up for Zach Levine, but he definitely deserves a spot somewhere on this roster for sure. I love Sabonis. I think the big man on this team are awesome, and I love that the East is so like big man heavy this year, and they're all fun to watch. Like, bam, Julius Randle out of nowhere is like really, really, really stepping it up this year.
So funny.
Like if you had told me 2 years ago, you were like, "Yo, the best person in like 2 years, or not the best, or top 10 big man probably in the league is going to be Julius Randle," I would have been like, "You're stupid."
Remember when he was on New Orleans?
Yeah.
No.
But I really like this list. I was for a too long period of time, I was considering throwing Tobias Harris on a list because I think he is vastly underrated and is a big part of the reason why the 76ers are so good this year. Granted, I couldn't feasibly put Tobias Harris on the list without putting Ben Simmons on the list, and I couldn't find a spot for Simmons on the list. So I was like, I can't do it. But anyway, I really like this list. I think both the East and the West are awesome right now.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to look at the lists and then look at everybody that was snubbed and being like, it sucks that they were snubbed, but I'm looking at the list and it's just like, this makes sense. Like, I don't know if I would ever like trade one out for another, but we're going to get right into that. Actually, we're going to be talking about the snubs. We're just going to go around the podcast and going to pick people off this list that we have right now. John, I'll start with you. Who do you place as like, I guess, maybe not one of the worst snubs, but who would you have liked to see in this list?
Yeah, so like I said, it's Ben Simmons, and I won't talk about him too much, but because I already did. But I would have Ben Simmons in the list, and I would probably take off either Julius Randle or Domantas Sabonis to put him in there. And then the other one that I'm interested in is just like probably like Jimmy Butler. It's just he hasn't played enough games. But the games that he's played in, he's been kind of incredible. He's just he's like on something else this year. It looks like finals Jimmy Butler, honestly, out there a lot of the time. And like, so I've been really impressed with what I see out of him. And then I'll just say one more that I don't really even believe in, but I put Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. There's no one that I would take off this list to put them in there. Fred VanVleet is probably more deserving, honestly, this year than Siakam is. But Siakam has been better lately, so I just wanted to like toss their name out because the Raptors were really, really bad to start the year, and they've kind of been figuring it out. So I just wanted to mention them because they have gotten better. But yeah.
How the mighty have fallen with Siakam, who was, I believe, in the starting lineup last year, if I'm not wrong, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. He's the second.
He's still in the starting. Yeah. Oh, for All-Star, yeah.
Sam, we'll go to you next.
I think I spoke my point in Trae Young. Like I said, like I think we all agree that this list, like, is like I'm not mad about it because it's like it all made sense realistically. If I had to sub someone in, maybe Trae Young. It's a stretch, Brandon Ingram, but I can't see myself putting 2 Pelicans and still being like the 4th worst team in the NBA. I think a real snub might be Vucevic. I think as like a big man, he's been balling out like really good. Like he's been really good. He's dangerous. That guy's dangerous. I think he hopes not to be traded to a cold city because he's just vibing in Orlando, enjoying like the consistent humidity and like 75-degree weather. I think that's why he's not asking for a trade because he's just balling out, got the cash, and just having a good time. But I mean, that guy's putting up some real stats for a big man.
Yeah, I think that's like super depressing because like Vucevic is so fucking good, but he's on Orlando. So it's just like, what are you going to do at that point?
And I guess we should also toss a little love at Gordon Hayward. I forgot to put him on there.
Yes.
Shoot, yeah.
He's also like in that kind of snubbish category. Again, I don't know who I would take off to put him in, but he's having a really good comeback year.
Yeah, very happy for Gordon Hayward. Kevin, we'll go to you next.
Again, I kind of hit on this before. I think Tobias Harris is someone that isn't talked about for this kind of stuff enough, and I think he really does deserve a little to at least be in the conversation. Again, as we've said 100 times already this episode, like I'm not mad at this list. I wouldn't change it, honestly, but I think Tobias Harris's name deserves to be discussed. Jimmy Butler, I think, like you guys hit on, if he had played even a few more games, I would be hard-pressed to not put him in with the numbers he's putting out. And then I think someone threw down in the doc to SGA. I think he's been playing phenomenally. But again, I could never put him in over any of the guards that are currently on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest one for me would be Devin Booker. I know last year he got snubbed too. I think last year it would have been easier for me to put him into a starting lineup than any of the people that I'm looking at right now. If I were to trade anybody out for Devin Booker, maybe Zach Levine, but that's like really hard for me to do. I can't.
You'd have to trade him out for. Well, no, you'd have to trade him out for someone in the West first.
Oh my God, you're right. I am so dumb. I would trade him out for Donovan Mitchell.
I would trade him out for maybe De'Aaron Fox because
okay, yeah, no, you're right. De'Aaron Fox definitely. Kevin would probably trade him out for Paul George. I'm assuming. I mean, he's not. Paul George isn't the guard, but Kevin would find a way. All right, well, there you go, guys. Those are our all-star picks from what we have. They should be releasing the reserves. I don't remember when they'll be releasing them. John, do you know?
I have no idea. I hope after we release this episode.
yeah, that would be ideal. That would be extremely ideal. If it happens before then, and we get it all right, I would be super happy. And you guys can just call us like for all of your gambling needs, because obviously we can see into the future. So thank you guys so much for listening to the show. This has been the Deep 3 Podcast. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at the Deep 3 Pod. You can also email us any questions at deep3pod@gmail.com. This is our All-Star Reserves picks, and thank you guys so much for listening to the show. Peace.
Can't believe I got snubbed.